All right, guys, it's another loss for the Utah Jazz. That's now 3 in a row, and this is to the New York Knicks in Salt Lake City. We've seen this story before with Jalen Brunson. He does it again to the Jazz. Let's talk about it. It's the Hoopsner postgame show. All right, this is a really tough loss for the Utah Jazz. That's now 3 in a row, and the Jazz are kind of at a crossroads a little bit as a team because where they go from here is going to be really interesting. And based off of what happens, I gotta fix my camera here. There, we're like an angle. Now we're fixed. Anyways, let's talk about the Knicks first before we talk about the Jazz and where they're at. The New York Knicks are now 7-7 after tonight, and there's some things that you can like about the Knicks, and there's some things to just kind of be like, eh. I mean, they're 7-7. They basically look like a 500 team. Tonight they played pretty good defense. I think one of the things I noticed about what they did with the Jazz is they did a good job of really mucking things up for Utah. Everything seemed hard, and I think a lot of that is just like the size of the Knicks. Let me pull my big old face down here, and let's pull this up. RJ Barrett's not having a very good season so far. It'll be interesting to see if that turns around at some point and if he goes on some sort of tear, because that might be the difference between this Knicks team being 7-7 and having a much better record. Tonight, it was just a lot of blah. It's like 5 for 18, 27% from the field, 0 for 5 from 3. He did get to the line 14 times, which is impressive stuff, although he only knocks down 8 of them. So just not a very impressive night shooting the ball, and I don't know what's going on with RJ Barrett in the shooting because he's having a career low in terms of shooting percentages. And this is the guy the Knicks did not want to give up to Utah last offseason during the trade deadline. So this is not looking very good and not looking like a great decision for the Knicks. By the way, they just gave him a monster contract. So I don't think he's going to play like this all season, although I kind of wonder if it's time for a little bit of a coaching change in New York. Knicks fans, let me know in the comments, but I really don't know if Tibbs is the guy. There's just not a lot of offensive creativity with that team. It's a lot of like iso ball and just not a lot of stuff is easy for this Knicks team. And as I watch, just as someone who doesn't watch every Knicks game, I mean, everything just seems kind of hard for them. I mean, Jalen Brunson's a great little like isolation player, and he did a great job tonight. But if the Jazz just had a better night shooting, they'd probably win this game. I think this Knicks team just really lacks creativity on the offensive end for sure, and that just comes down to Tibbs. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing to make things easier for RJ Barrett? He's obviously not going to become like an elite top 10, top 20 guy. He just doesn't look like it. I could be wrong. Maybe in the next year or two, he really turns things around and that's what he becomes. But, I mean, man, just putting up numbers like this tonight. And by the way, wings and guards and playmakers are absolutely taking it to the Jazz this year. Like, if you're a top scorer on an opposing team taking on the Jazz, chances are that if you choose your PrizePicks to put it on them, they're doing well. That's what I did tonight. Jalen Brunson hit his PrizePicks for me pretty easily. He was at he had to hit 19. He scores 25. Speaking of PrizePicks, let's talk about our sponsor, PrizePicks. Right now, if you haven't already, go use promo code HoopsNerd and sign up. They match up to $100. That's free money, guys, for your PrizePicks. Go to PrizePicks, download it, use promo code HoopsNerd. It supports the channel, and you can get free money. I've hit on my last 4 and missed out just a little bit, and I've got some ideas for how I'm going to adjust with this Jazz team because I think there's a lot of opportunities to really win some easy ones with Utah because the Jazz have cooled off, and it's cooled off my PrizePicks recently, so it's time to start adjusting how we do it. But one thing's for sure, if you'd have bet on Jalen Brunson tonight, you would have easily hit the over on him because it was pretty much – that was easy to see from a mile away, and obviously – that worked out for me. It was the assist from Conley that didn't work out. So, anyways, go to PrizePicks. Use promo code HoopsNerd. It's easy money. They match up to $100. So it's literally free money. So I just cut off my own audio there. Why did I do that? There we go. All right. Now let's talk about the Utah Jazz. There's becoming a pretty obvious trend here with this Utah Jazz team in terms of winning basketball games, and something that opposing teams are starting to do. There's a little bit of a scouting report out there for the Utah Jazz, and the thing that's really becoming clear to me is that Lauri Markkanen is kind of the bellwether for this Jazz team. Yes, they had a few guys tonight have bad shooting nights. Jordan Clarkson, for one, did not have a good shooting night. 5 for 16, 3 for 11. That's what kept me from... I needed one more assist for Conley, and if Jamal Clarkson could have made one more shot, I would have got it. But dang it, he did not. Missed it by one. So close, guys. I tell you what, if the Jazz are about to tank, go get your PrizePicks because it makes the games more interesting, and it gives you more reasons to watch, and it's fun. But when you miss it by one assist, man. Anyways, Lauri Markkanen is very clearly becoming the bellwether for this Jazz team. He was a plus 16 in this one, so his impact is obviously there. But the scoring just wasn't. 13 points. And it wasn't because he was shooting bad percentages. I mean, if you're shooting 45 from the field and 40 from three, that's solid. You know, you'll take it. It just means you need more shots. And so it's obvious that opposing teams are taking away Lauri Markkanen as much as they can. The cutting from Markkanen at the beginning of the year was something he was doing a great job of, and the Jazz were feeding him really well. That's been taken away. So he's going to have to get his points in more difficult ways, isolations and things like that. He did get 4 assists and 6 rebounds. This is fun to see. So he is finding a way to contribute even if he's not scoring. It's just Markkanen, they need to find ways to get Markkanen more involved. And I know the Jazz have this flowing offense, which I do really like. And honestly, if the Jazz got a good night from, from Jordan Clarkson, or Mike Conley shot just 3 for 10, it's a different story tonight. But it's really clear that if Lauri Markkanen has a big game for the Jazz win the game, regardless of what else is going on here, because the Jazz are still assisting the ball at an elite level. To look at this, 29 assists tonight on a loss. The Jazz just move the ball well. It's a great team system, and it's a great team that really knows how to move the ball. But they don't have that over the top scorer when Markkanen's not impacting in that way. So it's just something to watch. Look at the unders for him too. If they have a big-time power forward, tonight it was Julius Randle, and we've talked about this before, they really knock Lauri Markkanen out of what he does. And so, 13 points tonight. They did a good job of preventing him. Kelly Olynyk had the game of the night. He took 13 free throws. He had 27 points, 11 rebounds. Just a huge night for Kelly Olynyk. We've talked about how big he's been for the Jazz. The real issue is that if Kelly Olynyk is the top scorer for your team, you're probably not that great of a team, right? Or that means the other team did a great job of preventing other players from doing well, and that's kind of what happened. 5 for 16 for Jordan Clarkson, 3 for 10 for Mike Conley, the 7 assists, 5 assists, so they were assisting the ball. Just they weren't knocking down shots, and so it's hard to win when both these guys are shooting 31% and 30%. I mean, that's kind of what was the name of the game for the Jazz. Jared Vanderbilt's been a little interesting. He took one shot, and he passed up a couple shots at the rim that he should be taking. 9 rebounds, but just one shot, 2 points. He did have 1 assist, but man, Jared Vanderbilt, when he's near the rim, he needs to just go cram the ball, just get a dunk. And he did not tonight, and you could just kind of tell. We've already kind of talked about Clarkson. I love the assists. They just consistently at 5 assists. It's amazing. And then obviously Mike Conley. This would have gone up if anyone could hit a shot for the Jazz. My goodness. But Mike Conley still continues to assist the ball at a high level. That's a solid PrizePicks right there, actually. He just didn't hit it tonight with the 8. Dang it. But he's always going to be up there assist-wise. This is about as reliable as it gets. He also had 4 steals tonight. Really, it was the shooting for the Jazz. You had just guys. The other guy I noticed that really they needed a scoring punch, and it just wasn't there, was Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton was just 1 for 5. In 17 minutes, he only took 5 shots, and he scored 3 points, and he was a minus 17 while he was on the floor. Tough stuff, The Jazz needed that scoring, and it just wasn't there. Walker Kessler, can we just take a moment to appreciate Walker Kessler? If the Jazz are on the verge of a tank, then we're going to see a lot more Walker Kessler, and I personally am here for it. Kessler was phenomenal tonight. his minutes are becoming just vital. 7 rebounds. Let's see how many. Let's see, 7 rebounds. He had how many block shots? Just the one block shot, but his rim protection is fantastic. And he is a solid. I mean, he is becoming a solid offensive player. I mean, he's doing kind of the Rudy Gobert thing where he's just dunking the ball. That's why he goes 100%. But man, his impact on the game is palpable. And he's a smart player. He had a couple of these were those long alley-oops that he got. One from Mike Conley, one from Talen Horton-Tucker. He's just becoming a real impact player for this Jazz team. And I wouldn't be surprised if these minutes continue to rise. I mean, at some point, if Jared Vanderbilt continues to struggle, maybe Walker Kessler starts in place of Vanderbilt and you have Kelly Olynyk as your power forward. You know, that might be interesting. We'll see what happens. But this Jazz team obviously wants Vanderbilt to develop. He just needs to take shots. Some of this, too, this loss could a little bit be chalked up also to just tired legs. This was the Jazz have played so many games. I think they're one of the leading teams just in games played. They've had 2 times, maybe even 3 this season. I know 2 for sure. They've had 3 games in 4 nights. You know, so this Jazz team is just probably a little bit of dead legs, and so that could kind of explain the shooting a little bit. They looked so slow tonight, but man. But I just wanted to talk about Walker Kessler. He's been fantastic. Colin Sexton, like we said. Can we also talk about Talen Horton-Tucker? I know that like the 3-point shooting wasn't there tonight, blah blah, but man, look at this. He's 40% from the field. He was 6 for 6 from the free throw line. So he is manufacturing points at an efficient level. That 10 points on 5 shots is efficiency, you know. And he also had 3 assists. We're starting to see Talen Horton-Tucker be a really nice backup point guard option. If the Jazz are about to tank and they trade some players, I really hope Talen Horton-Tucker gets a lot more minutes and gets a lot more chances to kind of run the offense, because we're seeing him really start to figure some things out. This is really exciting, you guys. This is exciting stuff. When you combine this with the 3 assists, I mean, he did have 3 turnovers, so this is where he's going to need to develop is cutting down on this. This is decision making. But man, his ability to get to the foul line like this will make him an efficient scorer. 2 for 5 from the field is not terrible. Obviously, you'd like to see him hit the threes that he takes. You know, he's not an elite 3-point shooter yet. Maybe he can be. But man, this is something to be excited about, guys. This is like 4 or 5 games in a row where Talen Horton-Tucker is starting to look like a solid rotation player. That's exciting stuff. To get him for Pat Beverly, who was just not going to really be a part of this team, is basically nothing. This is fantastic. Basically, we got Talen Horton-Tucker as part of the Rudy Gobert trade. Pretty darn cool. You know, he's so wide. He's so explosive. In some ways, he reminds me of Joe Ingles because he's got that big body and he knows, and he's like, you'd think like he wouldn't be able to get to the rim, but he does, and it's either just the quickness or no understanding how to use his size, kind of like Ingles does. But then he's got explosion. We've seen him cram it on people multiple times. So he's becoming one of my favorite players to watch. The other thing that was interesting in this game was that what's his name? Man, I'm sleepy, guys. The other thing was Simone Fontecchio got time because we did not have Rudy Gay in the game. And he actually looked really solid. I mean, offensively, pretty good. 3 for 6 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3. So best shooting night of anyone. And he also did a little of everything. 4 rebounds, 2 assists. I actually felt like his defense was pretty good. I'm actually surprised that he led the team in plus minus in the negative. I don't know if this is all on him. I guess it makes me want to kind of watch and just focus on him and see, like, is this something that he's doing? Or is this just a culmination of being with everyone else who was negative, you know? Because obviously Colin Sexton had a bad night. Horton-Tucker was a minus 11. Kessler was a minus 8, which is kind of interesting. And then you had some minus guys on the Jazz. Look, Olynyk scored 27 but was a minus 7. So I don't know. That's interesting to me. And there was that time where Olynyk was on the floor with, I believe it was Fontecchio. So anyways, it's interesting. He's hitting shots. We're seeing that he is definitely an efficient shooter, and that shooting from Europe is translating. So that's pretty cool. And I do love that he's big. Fontecchio is big. And he kind of brings the same element that Rudy Gay does. So, I mean, if he can be... I actually felt like tonight he kind of showed like... sorry. Fontecchio might be kind of earning his spot over Rudy Gay, because this is really nice to see. We do not see this from Rudy Gay, you know? So this was pretty cool, and he's a rookie. So, I don't know. I really enjoyed this. This was fun to see. I think Fontecchio can be a nice option off the bench. Just another nice player. And then let's just give a shout-out to Malik Beasley, who's becoming one of the best players on the Jazz, or is one. Just this shooting is just so elite and so consistent, and he's doing it every night now. 37% from three, solid. 41% from the field. Let's see here. 4 rebounds. And a +5, where everyone else was in the doldrums. He was +5. So Malik Beasley is turning out to be just a really nice piece. And I would not be surprised if there's a lot of teams out there starting to give the Jazz a call, because he has just looked elite, high-level player. So pretty awesome. Guys, we'll just mention it. This is now 3 losses in a row for the Jazz. They are now 10-6. I wanted to go. Let's go to the standings. Standings watch. So the Jazz still hold third because they still hold the tied for the lead with most wins in the Western Conference, but they now have more losses than everyone except until you get to the Grizzlies here. I don't know. 3 losses in a row, and the loss against the Wizards, and now this loss tonight, not great. Those were the ones you should have won, and so they dropped those. That's starting to get a little bit like, what's going on? If they start losing more games, and obviously I'm kind of one of those that kind of leans towards the Jazz to just try to get a couple elite pieces, things could start getting interesting here. And will say we're on the 15th now. Should we do it on here? It's the 15th. This date right here is an interesting one, the 22nd. Why? Well, what happened 2 months ago from this date? That was when the Bojan Bogdanovic for Kelly Olynyk trade happened. So that means Kelly Olynyk is eligible to be traded on the 22nd. So I don't know if something like the Knicks, it's just an interesting date to watch. I don't know if it'll mean anything. Maybe it's as interesting as the Y2K, and nothing's going to happen on this date. But I wouldn't be surprised if a trade happens this week, because it makes all Jazz players eligible, including Olynyk, who's had just a monster season. And who knows, maybe the Lakers come calling and are asking for Olynyk, Beasley, and Conley or something like that. It'll be interesting to see. Let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. If you'd like to have Wembanyama on the Utah Jazz or not, or Scoot Henderson or Amin Thompson or any of those guys. I certainly would. But anyways, 10-6. So this is a fun thing. When the Jazz lose, we go to Tankathon, because what's fun to do when the Jazz lose is drown your sorrows in a lottery simulation. Tankathon.com does not promote the channel, but I do promote Tankathon because I love them. And by the way, I was one of the first followers of Tankathon.com on Twitter. I was like follower number 20 when they just got created. Anyways, I did one before the show just out of curiosity. Guess what? This Minnesota pick jumped to number 2. So Scoot Henderson to the Utah Jazz. How cool would that be? All right, we're going to do the lottery sim tonight because it's fun. If the lottery was today, here's how it goes. Utah has the Minnesota pick, and it looks right now, since Philadelphia keeps winning, that's now jumped out of the lottery, and the Jazz would get the number 16, it looks like. But anyways, let's sim this lottery. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, skunked. The Jazz get the 11th. Although we're going to count the one I did before as the 1 because we got the number 2. Okay, let's do it again. No. 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 Come on. Looks like we need to lose to up our odds, right? Dang. It really doesn't want to do it, does it? All right. Well, that's great television. I'm sure everyone enjoyed me sitting there doing that. All right. Let's give a shout out to our All-Stars, guys. That's the show. It's a Jazz loss, so I'm sorry the Jazz lost. I know everyone here, most people here watching this show are Jazz fans, and so I apologize for the Jazz not making your day. But let's see. We should have pulled this up earlier. How's the sound on that? Can you hear that? I'm going to check the filters here. You know what? We're going to just... Is the sound good? Hey, Christian House Money, $2, my man. Thank you, sir. What's up this? There we go. All right, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars, guys. The guys and gals who are here, even when the Jazz lose, you guys support this channel, and I appreciate it immensely. Let's give a shout out to Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de bajo, Baby Elliott Matson, Ryan Perry, the legend, Jordan the Goat Besserell, Just Buckets, JB, Zap Watts, TGD Total Game Domination, Kristen House Money to Haas, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, and X marks the spot for Zintas. How are we sound-wise? All right, let's keep going. X marks the spot for Zintas. We already talked about Tyson Price, The Price is Right, but I'm going to say it again. Let's see. Joshua Hansen, the Danish Destroyer. Ezekiel Raisibe, the man from down under. Austin R. Grant, editor extraordinaire. Donald Schooley, schooling all of us. DW to CB. Darren Williams to Carlos Boozer. Patrick Akubo, the connoisseur. And Robert Hall of Fame. One more Tankathon hit. Let's reset it. Let's set up our pins. No! Skunked again. Brooklyn gets the number 1 pick, and it goes to Houston. Wow. All right, guys, I ain't mad at it. A loss for the Jazz is a win for the future. Victor Wembanyama's on the line. And you know who's on the line? Danny Ainge calling somebody. Get those phone calls in, Danny Ainge. By the way, if you haven't already, sign up for PrizePicks. Get that free money. Promo code HoopsNerd. Guys, like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will talk to you next time.